What's up guys, welcome back to the HQ, picking right up where we left off last episode. Rex is just finishing up the gearbox cross member. At the moment, I am trying to get our new bushes into our lower trailing arms. Now, I tell you what, at this point I really do wish that I just bought some McDonald Brothers adjustable lowers as well as the adjustable uppers that I ordered, because this is going to turn into a big problem. So, as you saw at the end of the last episode, we've got our new Super Pro bushes. We've got our arms here that I just plated up, boxed in, which is great. So you can see that these casings for the old bushes have been in here for so long and they're so old that they have like ballooned out in the center. See how different that is? Which is a big problem. This is not good. Basically, we're going to have to cut these old casings out, which would have been awesome before I plated them up, because I could have got the Cipro saw straight in there and cut them out. It would have been no problem. But now with them completely boxed in, there's really no way for me to get anything in there to cut them out. And it's just going to be an absolute pain. And what I found is that between how much time it took me to box these in yesterday and how much we paid just for bushes, it definitely would have been way better and probably cost not much more to just buy a set of arms from McDonald Brothers. So lesson learnt, but unfortunately if we bought some from McDonald Brothers now, they wouldn't be here in time for us to get the car rolling with the diff in it, which we need to for it to go to fabrication. So it's not really an option that can be on the table now, so I've got to try and get this happening. Righto guys, cross member's officially all welded up. See, look at this. Should have just got Rex to weld the lower trailing arms, and I wouldn't have had to spend ages freaking trying to polish out my crap welds. Just started laying paint on our lower trailing arms. Laying paint. Anyway, so pretty much all we need now is a gearbox mount. So we'll hunt one of them down at the moment, but it's essentially our mounts, cross member sorted, and once these arms have finished drying and I press the new bushes into them, we can start looking at getting this diff in. So we're looking pretty on track to having this thing where we need to have it to before it goes to fabrication, which is good. We are just waiting on our trans and oil coolers to get here from PWR, which is hopefully tomorrow. A new radiator arrived today, so hopefully all that stuff for the front end's here tomorrow, so that we have like a few good days, like a good 3 or 4 days to sort out how we're going to fit this these coolers and this intercooler and stuff, because it's going to be a lot. It's going to be difficult to fit everything in the front end. So Rex just got back from picking up our coolers. So our big PWR coolers, same coolers we put on the VF model, plus the supercharged VY 1 tonner, plus the supercharged VE. We have used these two coolers for engine and trans on quite a few cars, and they work freaking awesome. They work so well. So it's awesome that we finally got those, because it's going to be a huge job trying to fit all this stuff in the front end. We're putting down some paint on this stuff, top of the cross member. Next coat's about to be on the bottom. These are our boxed in lower trailing arms, which didn't actually come out too bad with paint. But anyway, they could have been a lot nicer, but like I said, lesson learnt, we should have just bought new ones from McDonald Brothers. So, as far as the front end is concerned, it's pretty much going to look like this. We've got just a eBay cheapy alloy radiator to suit HQ Chev, 350 Chev, and it's because it's the same layout as the Holden 6, which is actually the right layout for the Barra for what we want to do. So the reason we just go for cheap alloy ones from eBay is just because they work. We usually go this way plus good thermos, and that combination we find usually works fine. Not to mention the fact that to get PWR to make a radiator at the moment is like a freaking 12-week wait or 13-week wait. Last time we ordered a PWR radiator, it literally took 14 weeks. So we didn't really have that sort of time, and we find that these coupled with good fans works great. So we're running two 12-inch SPAL fans, which is going to be a combined, I think it was like 3200 CFM combined. So massive. So it's going to be that, plus the owner has like a Resto Country or whatever it's called, AC kit, which we're going to have a condenser in front of that. Plus we've got to fit those in. Plus we have to fit an intercooler. So when I ordered a heap of stuff from Zoo for this build, sort of just got excited and went for the 100mm intercooler core, which looking back, it's unnecessarily big, which wouldn't normally matter. No, nothing wrong with going too big, except for the fact that we're going to be so pushed for room. So I think I'm going to have to get onto Zoo and order a 75mm core. It's all right, we'll keep the 100 for another build. It'll definitely get used, but for this particular thing, a 75mm core is going to be plenty for how much power we want to make. and it should hopefully allow us to fit all this stuff in the front end a little bit better. The biggest issue is the HQ grille. As you can see, the HQ grille is recessed way back into the nose cone, and that grille pretty much goes all the way back. Probably easy to show you from the top, but the grille goes all the way back to pretty much the radiator support panel. So there's literally no room between the grille and the radiator support, which makes it really, really hard to fit anything. So I'll show you from the top, it's easier to see. Damn, boy. It's a thick boy. That's better, isn't it? That looks better than the first radiator. Yeah, that's heaps. So before I go and order a 75mm core from Zoo, we're going to wait and have a better look at how we're going to fit this front end together, because if it's going to be an advantage, I can get one that's a 450 by 300 instead of the 600 by 300. So if it's going to help, I'm willing to sacrifice the bit of cooling for the room. Alright guys, we're back here today. So yesterday was the day of the week that the missus goes and tutors one of the local kids, so I go home and look after the boy. So I wasn't here for the very end of the day, but it started raining after we got that coat of paint on that cross member. Not too worried about it, because we still got to weld some nuts on the top side, so you don't have to get a spanner into the top side to do them up. So once we do that, when the car comes back from fab, we'll do another coat of paint on it then. But Rex got the cross member back in and hung the engine before he came home and actually painted the engine mounts, so they're all painted up. As you can see, got the radiator in. This radiator's looking much better than the original one. So there's a few things we're going to have to do. Obviously, we're going to have to put the filler into the thermostat housing, which is not uncommon, particularly in Barra land. A lot of people seem to do that. I know people make them, we've just got to figure out who makes them. And we're going to get just like a 90 welded onto that or something, and welded it closer down to there, so it's just like a silicon joiner somehow. For this side, I don't really want to go modifying and welding the water pump housing, just because it means that every time the owner has to replace the water pump, then he's got to flap around and modify the housing every time, which I'd just rather not do. So we're going to try and do something, probably come around the back and then come down, because we're going to have an idler here to complete the belt route when we've got our alternator relocation. So it'll come around the back and then down onto the radiator outlet there. So all of this sort of fabrication in the top here, we're going to try and get Ryan at Elite Fab to do. As you've seen, we're happy to do all the fabrication of getting stuff in the car, particularly underneath the car and stuff, but for this particular build and what we're aiming for with it, all of that fab we want to sort of be done by Ryan and have it done really, really nice. So I'm going to talk to Ryan about doing that. So this is what I was talking about yesterday before I left, about showing you from the top. You can see how the HQ grille sort of comes all the way back. You can see the shape of the grille from the front, how it sort of angles from this peak. It angles right back and it takes up all this space. So what we're going to have to do is modify a grille. Not this grille, because it's in very good condition. We would not go cutting this grille, but we're going to try and get another grille. We think we've got one here to modify, and the aim is to pretty much this distance here, modify this grille and bring this out so that it follows this all the way along. So it'd be HQ still, and still a little bit recessed, but it'll sort of be almost a flat front, like it'll follow the contour of the front end instead of angling back. So that way we get us about another, as you can see, like a good another 50 mil in the corners there. It's bloody tight with everything here. Anyway, obviously with these radiators you get what you pay for. I know there's going to be people jumping up and down about the caliber of this build and using a radiator like this, but like I said, we can't afford to wait for a PWR, and we have had plenty of success just using these radiators in the past. They still work pretty well. We use the same radiator in that 68 Mustang we built. And at the end of the day, it is just a HQ radiator to suit an inline six or a Chev layout. So if one needs to be ordered from PWR or something to replace this one, well then it can always just go straight in later on down the track. But for now, having one on time, being able to fabricate around it, this was our best option. So we've got some HQ grills here to start modifying and try and see what we can do with. So we'll get going with those. New bushes pressed in. So our boxed in trailing arms that weren't really worth doing in the end of it are finally done. But anyway, we know for the next H series we do anything like this where you're doing a diff and want to do lower trailing arms, we know to just check the price of McDonald's Brothers ones, because they're probably cheaper than you expect. Alright, so we just sorted out protection for everything we need to work out in this front end, and we've just removed the grille for now, and we will worry about the grille at a later date. It's not really important at this minute, but starting to pretty much find where we can mount all this stuff up. This is the AC condenser that comes with the vintage air kit, and it does fit just directly in front of the radiator, which is awesome. So when I left yesterday, Rex also made the spaces that we needed for the sway bar to clear the sump. So hopefully got a little break in the rain now. So Rex has been going at this front end. and we are quickly running out of room. We have essentially run out of room. We went out, we've got a 600 by 75 core cooler in the container that we have just as a spare, which is good for just measuring up, but it would appear even just with the 75mm cooler and the condenser, we still are going to struggle getting this grill back in the way we want it, and that's without our coolers in there at all. So it's looking like we're going to have to find another solution for our coolers, maybe mount them underneath the car with thermos. Not ideal, not something we really like to do because of the potential for them to get damaged, but it looks like we might not have really any choice. So while Rex was doing that, I was working on getting this diff together. So I had to sort out shimming the brakes out to get them in the center of the disc, and there were a few other things we had to sort out, plus the coilover kit had to go together because it comes obviously in pieces, and I've got to tell you, the instructions that I've got here are sort of not very ideal. So I've got to give United Speed Shop a call and try and get some more detailed instructions on how these things go together, because I've got questions, because the hardware they've supplied doesn't make any sense to me either. But anyway, as I was trying to sort of get this together, there are a few things I sort of noticed while I was hunting around for better illustrations of how the coilovers go together on their website, is that the coilover brackets for the United Speed Shop coilovers are actually all shown on the front side of the diff, which does seem to be quite unique to this specific coilover kit. Pretty much every other coilover kit that we can find any information on, they are mounted the way Damien has obviously fabricated this to mount, and they're mounted on the back. But for whatever reason, this particular kit is meant to be mounted on the front, which is obviously going to cause us an issue, but I've spoken to Damien about it. Just going to pick a day next week to take the housing down. He's going to just fix that up for us straight away, so huge thanks to him for getting onto that pretty much straight away. But for now, obviously, the car's going to have to go down to fabrication on Monday with the banjo in it. Anyway, as you can see, we've got nice big bare brakes here. That's pretty much what the diff looks like, except for the coilover will be on the front, and we'll have some McDonald Brothers adjustable upper trailing arms. So we tossed up quite a few options for the diff with this thing. We've got obviously a couple of Falcon wagons laying around with some good Borg Warners in it. I do believe that like a Borgie 78 with a decent center would have been enough for the power we want to make with this car, considering we're not looking for a huge powered vehicle. But I gave Duncan there at Top Cog a call to have a chat about a center, and we sort of chatted about it, and you know, he's the man when it comes to diffs obviously, and he sort of pretty much we decided to go down the route of a 9-inch. We considered it even before going the Borgie of just getting some of those, I think Castlemaine do like a full just 9-inch ready to go together. The customer already had the bare brakes, already had the coilovers, he already had a lot of this stuff, so we sort of needed something that we could fabricate all of this onto and get it all working in the car. So pretty much Duncan talked us into going a 9-inch. I'm glad he did. We've got Duncan's Torque Worm LSD. It's a 3:5 ratio, and the Torque Worm LSD is supposedly, Duncan says, pretty much the forefront of LSD technology, and these are just the bee's knees when it comes to diff centers. So Duncan there at Top Cog put us on to Damien there at Full Throttle Customs and Bean Lee to actually fabricate it all up, and he's done a great job. The workmanship's great, the thing looks awesome, and although this is not going to be a huge power build for now, with this diff plus our 1350 yokes and solid tail shaft and everything else that's going to be in this car, the brakes, the coilovers, everything else in this car is going to be ready for if the owner ever decided to pull this particular Turbo 400 out and this stock bottom and Barra out and put in a built engine and a Turbo 400 that was built to handle a bit more power. The car around that is ready to handle well over 1,000 horsepower at the wheel. So, and at the end of it, we ended up with a completely fabricated 9-inch ready to go into this car, just ready to bolt in. Obviously, once we get these coilovers sorted, you know, ready to bolt into the HQ with the coilovers and brakes and everything all fabricated and built into it. And that just made it that much easier. Like, even if we decided to go the Borgie and got Duncan to just do a center for that, we would have had to fabricate all that on. And as much as we might have been able to do it, I don't want to say we couldn't do it. It definitely wouldn't have been this neat and tidy. Would have been a lot more work for us. So it worked out pretty well. The price all up was pretty awesome. It's pretty impressive, and we're stoked with it, so get that sorted next week. So anyway, huge big thanks to those two blokes, Duncan there at Top Cog and Damien at Full Throttle Customs and Bean Lee. Alright guys, so confirmed, just not going to be able to fit our coolers up the front. So we're going to have to go back to a 75mm core on the cooler as well, in the intercooler, and we're going to have to find somewhere underneath the car to mount our trans cooler, and probably have to buy another thermo for that.
Which is, even if we could fit the, like even if we could physically fit the oil coolers and an intercooler, I reckon there's too much going on. When this car comes from North Queensland, there's too much heat stress.
Yeah.
When you look at an intercooler core, trans and oil cooler, a condenser, and then the radiator,
yeah,
we're not really helping anything that much. you know, by the time the air gets back and through the radiator, now it's already been heated by all three.
Yeah.
So next thing it could end up having temperature issues anyway. It's probably still going to be better anyway to move the oil coolers under the car. It's going to be more effective.
Yep. Anyway, more adversity, eh? More things that happen. It's just cars. It is what it is. Got to fit stuff in. Some things are wrong. Got to get them fixed. It happens. So looking underneath the car, we're thinking just here for one cooler. That fan's just on there for illustrative purposes, but we'd probably make that the engine oil cooler just because it's closest to where that's going to be. And being -10, those lines are the most expensive and hardest to run, so it makes sense for it to be closest it possibly can. And then the -6 lines, which come from the box, run them back to a cooler up here, which is just in front of the diff sort of area. So something like that. Obviously not the fittings facing that way, but something similar as far as the actual area is concerned. So that's a way that we can fit both coolers. Again, it's not something we'd ideally like to do, just obviously for the risk of damage. Solely just the risk of damage is something we would rather not, especially like this one that we're going to put here. We're going to have to be really careful and probably build some sort of guard to go on this because you know, with the wheel turning, it's pretty much directly in the line of fire for something to flick up from the front wheel. So there's a few things like that that need to be considered when doing this sort of thing, mounting them under the car. But as Rex was saying, as far as efficiency goes, it's probably going to be better overall anyway than having everything in the front. And obviously we don't really particularly have a choice, so it is what it is. Anyway, we can't mount them until we get our thermos for those because we need to know how big the thermos are so we know how high we can mount the coolers up. So that's going to be probably just another thing that we worry about after it comes back from fabrication as well. Alright guys, so that is the cross member all welded up, plated back in, sealed up. Rex is just going to clean up a few of them welds and then we'll paint it over. Should be mint. So that's awesome. I think that's probably enough for an episode. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out, see you, bye. Oh, smash like, smash subscribe.